a tarot and astrology reading for the Scorpio new moon happening on Monday, May 12th. I've been enjoying reflecting on the astrology for this full moon. It's pretty potent. I mean, anytime you have Scorpio in the mix, it's going to be intense and potent. And because the energy of Scorpio, that archetype, it's about the shadow. It's about the deepest subconscious layers of ourself. It's about power and right relationship to power. It's about where we, our journey of cultivating our power, and that typically comes through many experiences of subconscious ways that we give our power away in ways that are to our detriment. And then we have to go about a process of reclaiming the power. And this is ultimately what I think the healing path is really all about. And so I think the archetype of Scorpio really offers us an opportunity of very, very deep healing that tends to be on really psychological aspects of ourselves. And, that part of us, the psychological aspect of ourselves, tends to be heavily influenced and determined by our childhood imprinting. And so we've got the Scorpio full moon. And so anytime we have a full moon, we are working with what's called an opposition in astrology. So we've got the full moon, which is going to be a Scorpio, and then across the way in opposing it, we have the sun in Taurus. And so let's see, it's so fun for me. I mean, I in my own time love just using the archetypes of astrology and tarot for reflection and insights and guidance and wisdom, so that I can really consciously co-create my life with intentionality. And it helps me to really understand, in a sense, kind of like what are the currents that we are collectively moving through, what are the tendencies that come along with those currents. And just for me, it's useful to have in mind so that when the wave comes, I can remember, oh yes, this is right on time with the energies that are moving through right now. Okay, note to self, I remember, there's ultimately within all the energies that are present and expressing, coming in, there's always, there's kind of like high side benefits and outcomes, and there's those lower side outcomes. And it's really all determined by the power of our free will. The power of our choice making is ultimately what determines how these energies are going to play out. And, sometimes, because sometimes I've heard, like, I've been in the healing and spiritual guidance world for a long time, about 20 years. And sometimes I hear people say things along the lines of like, well, sometimes things just happen for no reason. Sometimes there's just no reason. It's just like, you just gotta, it's just like the poor hand of cards that you were dealt that day. And I don't personally agree with that. I think there's always, always, always a reason why things happen in life. And sometimes the reason is simply just to see how we are going to respond to what's happening. And the way that we respond is a very strong reflection that we can use to grow ourselves to be even better versions of ourselves, which is the point. It's not, it's not about right and wrong and good and bad. It's about understanding that we are always going to be a work in progress. There's always room to grow. And sometimes it's just a matter of choosing how to respond and noticing the parts of ourselves that react instinctually. And while that's a important part of ourselves, it keeps us safe, keeps us alive. um, it's not always needed. Sometimes there's other choices available that we can make on how to respond to something in a more conscious, intentional way. And, when we do that, when we're able to do that and we're able to navigate energies, especially like what are coming through on this full moon, which, because this full moon, it's got Uranus in the mix. And so anytime the planet Uranus, and specifically its archetypal energy, is in the mix, we've got sudden, unexpected something happening, right? And so sometimes I think things happen just so we can see where we're really at, specifically in the truth that we claim to embody. Like, for example, it's really easy to have a truth that feels something along the lines of, I trust in life. The spirit of life is a benevolent energy, always conspiring to my benefit. It's a beautiful truth. And it takes a lot of, it's a beautiful, beautiful words, simple words to speak for a process that requires a lot of strength and courage and perseverance and devotion to one's truth. What the tendency is that when everything's feeling really good, we feel this connection to our truth. That's like, I believe that the spirit of life is a benevolent force conspiring for my benefit. But then when the sudden, unexpected challenge comes up, then the tendency is to revert into, panic, fear, anxiety, doubt, right? And again, it's not about being wrong or right. It's not about bad or good, but it is about like just reflecting on, well, what happened to that truth? What happened to that truth that in the moments when everything's feeling good in life, it's one way, but then the challenge comes and then the truth like gets thrown out the window. And again, this is like a indicator of which part of ourselves is at play. It's the instinctual part of ourselves. And again, it has a purpose, but that part of ourselves doesn't always influence us to make the most mature, wise, grounded choices. And so, so we're learning a lot about these parts of ourselves with this full moon. And if you can, my one suggestion is just stay connected to how you feel as the waves of energy move through, and reflect upon if your feelings are if they're connected to your truth, or if they're connected to fear, doubt, worry, insecurities, and and then maybe just reflect on like, wow, why is it that when everything's good, I feel like my inner truth feels like so strong and so clear, and then when the challenge comes and things don't go the way I expect or plan or hope, then I don't feel connected to my truth anymore. And one of the reasons I keep talking about our truth, is because Scorpio rules emotional truth. So, and it's being illuminated by the full moon. And it's opposing Uranus, which again is going to be the shocking, unexpected, and the shocking, unexpected doesn't have to come in the form of a challenge. It can come in the form of a miracle, So it's really just like, however it shows up, it's the whole purpose of Uranus is to ultimately bring us closer to the truth of who we are, and to living a life that, fully embodies that truth and is ultimately in service to a greater good, with that truth. And typically, because like the specific energy of Uranus is what's the truth inside of you that's really unique to you, that others could easily look in and judge from the outside, but for you it's like a superpower. For you it's like part of your gift of like who you're here to be and what you're here to do. And so like that archetype specifically is it's always wanting to guide us further deeper into these parts of ourselves, because we're not here just living our own little like life in a bubble and in a cocoon. We're here to be part of a greater whole. And the archetype of Uranus like like really beckons forth. It really like requires us to step into the, you know, like one of the like a great slogan for Uranus is let your freak flag fly. You know, so it's like this part of ourselves is what's getting triggered during this full moon. And so it's interesting too, because so we've got this full moon happening, and then like 5 days later we have the sun conjunct Uranus. So I think archetypally, it's symbolically just interesting how first we have a full moon opposing this Uranian energy, and the full moon is kind of like, and it's in Scorpio, so it's like lighting up like the depths, the deep, dark shadow inside, you know, the deep subconscious layers are being illuminated by this full moon. And then 5 days later, we've got the sun conjunct Uranus. So the sun is like the light of our awareness, that like our soul, and that comes in. It connects with Uranus directly. So it's almost as if like for this full moon, we have something deep inside that's being illuminated, and it might be happening in ways that it's never done before. In fact, I'm betting that it will. And then 5 days later, when the sun conjuncts Uranus in Taurus, I think that's kind of going to be like the light bulb moment where it kind of like everything clicks into place and it makes sense. And it's a little bit more clear of like, okay, what to do with this energy. The topic of endings is really pronounced in this full moon, because first of all, any full moon in its own is going to represent endings. It's a phase of culmination. It's a completion. It's a releasing and letting go. Sometimes it can even be healing, and or transformational for that reason. So we've got that happening. We've got that the completion of uh, the moon phase, because it's a full moon. But then we also have the topic of completions because during this full moon, we've got Saturn over in Pisces at the 29th degree. It's called a critical degree or anaretic degree in astrology. And it's the last degree of each sign. Every sign, every house has a 29th degree. They go from 0 to 29. So it's the ending degree point in Pisces. And then Pisces in its own is a sign that represents endings. It's when in the zodiacal wheel, you start with Aries and then you end with Pisces. So Pisces is like the great culmination of the entire zodiacal journey. On top of that, we've got Saturn sitting on that 29th anaretic degree in Pisces. And Saturn is one of the strongest energies of endings. Saturn, part of its archetype and property, the way it works is it will end what does not serve the ultimate karmic path. It will be in service to the karmic path, and it will bring endings to things that need to be ended. And the energy of Saturn is, again, all of these have both like a high side and a low side expression. We ultimately, with all the planetary archetypes, we experience the lower side expressions when we just simply are learning more about that part of ourselves. So when challenges come up in life, my suggestion is to create a specific kind of relationship to challenges that are arising in life from our external world or challenges that are coming from within us, to establish a relationship that instead of, um, the tendency is to want to like judge and blame and guilt and shame and push away and get it done and get it away and it hurts, bad, wrong, um, you know, um, but if the relationship to challenges is one that has a perspective that looks, feels, sounds something along the lines of, this is a part of me, and I love all aspects of myself. And even this part of myself that is really challenged, fearful, um, doubtful, anxious, scared, confused, feels deceived, feels manipulated, feels betrayed and abandoned and rejected, all of the things that are challenging, right? These are parts of me, and I love myself, and I've got myself, and I understand I have room to grow. I understand and see where I need healing, and I'm gonna just give that to myself. I'm gonna give myself this energy because I deserve it, because I deserve that level of love. I deserve that level of compassion and unconditional love and acceptance for myself. I deserve to forgive myself for all the ways that I unconsciously contributed to these outcomes in my life or these patterns in my life over time, right? It's like that's a very different relationship. That opens doors of possibility. That creates space not only for healing and compassion and forgiveness and acceptance in oneself, but it from that place is where we can really give it to other people as well, right? Because when we can hold that relationship to ourselves, we can understand others are going through the exact same thing. And while offering compassion and healing and even forgiveness and acceptance for other people and their apparent wrongdoings towards us, um, we can still do it and not want those people in our life. We could still do it and maintain healthy boundaries. We can still do it and say, okay, well, I don't want that person as a close friend, but if I saw them out in the world, like, it would be fine. Like, I'd be happy to have a nice moment, but like, I just feel like a healthy boundary for me is I want the people closest to me to just have more awareness and know how to love me better. And I don't really want to be the teacher for people on this part of how a relationship goes, And so that's totally okay. It's like we can hold all these parts inside of us at the same time in the same place. Um, okay, so one reason why I think Saturn is really prominent in this full moon, well, it's in a loose trine to the full moon because the full moon is going to be at 22 degrees of Scorpio, and Saturn is just about to enter 29 degrees of Pisces. So it's a loose trine. They say like 3 to 5 degrees of separation is like when the energy's strongest. So it's beyond 5 degrees of separation, but it's still pretty close. And I think it's Saturn is kind of being highlighted for me as well in this full moon because the 22nd degree of any sign is ruled by Capricorn. So we have a full moon at the 22nd degree of Scorpio. 22nd degree is ruled by Capricorn. The planet of Capricorn is Saturn, and Saturn is over at that anaretic 29 degree of Pisces. So there's something completing in the Pisces area of our chart during this time that's going to directly affect the houses that Saturn rules, which is Capricorn and Aquarius. So this full moon, it's like it's connected to the Scorpio area of our life. It's connected to the Pisces area of our life, the Taurus, and the Capricorn and Aquarius aspects of life. So if you know astrology enough to know your rising sign, if you know your first house, then what I just said could be some fun reflective insight for you on regarding endings that are specifically again, it's endings and the topic of like emotional truth, the truth of who we are, path, purpose, destiny in the world, as relates to the Capricorn and Aquarius parts of our chart, natal chart. Let's see, what else? I mean, there's always so many layers with astrology, which is part of why I love it, but I think that's enough for now. I'll go ahead and dive into the tarot. So I always like to start with the Spirit Cats deck by my friend Nicole PR. The information for both decks that I'm going to be using is in the description box under this video. So her cards are just so magical because they're always so freaking spot on. So here's a card. First of all, dealing with the full moon, right? Energies, we've got the full moon dealing with, which here I think is represented by the white, and then it's also in opposition to the sun. So we've got like the balance of light and dark happening, which, are represented in the colors here. Okay. And then check out this message. Meet Luna. She may seem a little ominous at first, but do not worry. She is truly here to help us. She is the catalyst. Oh, and the word for this card is catalyst. She is the kitty from the Philosopher's Stone. The magical alchemy that metaphorically turns lead into gold. She might shake things up like a crazy thunderstorm, but the sky will be so much clearer afterwards. She is the maven of breakthroughs and revelations. When Luna crosses your path, you might feel a shiver, but do not be afraid. That is only the first sign of a miraculous shift. There's that word miracle again. Uranus is all up in here. Okay. When you hear things like shake things up like a crazy thunderstorm, Uranus. Maven of breakthroughs and revelations, Uranus. Uranus is a part of us that Uranus rules synchronicities, like divine inspired insights, where it's just like, you just like kind of get a zing of insight right away. And you're like, oh my God, like a eureka moment. That's Uranus. Revelations. One thing that this card reminded me of, because it mentions magical alchemy that turns lead into gold. So part of what's happening during this full moon is that Mercury is in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto, the archetype of Pluto is all about alchemy, and Pluto is one of the planets that rules Scorpio. So, Mercury square Pluto, Mercury and Taurus square Pluto in Aquarius to me reads something along the lines of tensions, challenge, conflicts, delays in communications that are specifically involving material resources, personal value, in relationship to the people, because we have Pluto in Aquarius, so that's going to be Aquarius is like others and community and like the collective. So like on a collective level, yeah, I'm not, we might see some interesting stories in the news cycles around these topics. Well, there's certainly a lot happening in the collective around topics of, money, finances. These are topics of great concern for many people at this time. And, so we might be hearing some communications about that. It'll be interesting to see how that shows up in the collective. But on a personal level, it's really helpful to know what your rising sign is, what rules your first house, and then you can see what houses the Mercury and Taurus and the Pluto and Aquarius is showing up. For instance, like me as a Libra rising, Mercury is going into my 8th house. Mercury is in my 8th house, scoring Pluto and Aquarius in my 5th house. So, it just really it gets, a lot more detailed and more clear the more you understand your natal chart. Um, so yeah, so there's definitely a strong um, influence by the Plutonian energy as well in this full moon. It's deep. It's deep, you guys. It's deep. And, just it's a good opportunity for, utilizing your self-care toolkit. If you notice that you're feeling really challenged in some way, just it's going to be a really important time to learn how to take care of yourself. But, um, it doesn't always have to be challenging. It can be insightful, it can be inspiring, it can be revelatory. It just really depends how ultimately like what your soul needs at this time. All right, moving on. I'm going to keep going with the tarot. All right, so we've got the Three of Wands in reverse, the Four of Swords, the Hermit, and at the bottom of the deck, I've got the Justice in reverse. All right, so Three of Wands reverse to me. This is a tarot of transcendence by my cousin, Jennifer Fippen. And again, the information for these decks is in the description box below the video. So Three of Wands reverse for me. If this is you in relation to yourself, it makes me wonder, was there something in your life that you, like a dream, a desire, a goal, an ambition, an aspiration of some kind, a project that you really, really wanted to have happen in your life, but it didn't? It didn't go the way you wanted, or just flat out didn't happen. Are you having some feelings about that at this time? Is it creating any kind of like doubts and fears and anxieties for you about it ever happening at all? Um, Another way that I could read this card, because it's in the reverse, is, do you need to take a look at where in your life efforts need to be made, or adjustments need to be made in order to really get you on track with creating the dreams and goals and desires and the projects that you want to manifest? As an entrepreneur, that process, I'm like cycling through that process all the time. It's just a constant, process of refinement. And it's having the willingness to over and over and over take really, really honest assessments of myself and all the ways that I'm holding myself back or even sabotaging myself, all the ways that I need to just keep refining regarding like time management and resource management, and, really having a plan that I'm following that's actually getting me to my desired outcome. And it's just important to be humble and honest and enough to be and willing to do that kind of like assessment. So I think this is a message saying, if if what I'm saying right now resonates for you, it'd be a good time to just give yourself some reflective time, maybe even, do like some journal writing, or just meditate on it, or just set some intentions and do some prayer. Just in one way or another, get really clear of, are you really, is the way that you are going after whatever this means for you, whatever this represents, your dreams, your goals, your desires, your projects, like your ambitions, are you really on point? Can it be done better? If this is in relationship to another person, maybe there was, goals and dreams and ambitions, that you had with this other person or this other situation, and it just didn't turn out in the way that you had thought. Um, Sometimes in life, we just can't control the outcome of every single thing, right? And what's happening in our life is happening because it's ultimately what's needed at this time. And we are the creators of our own life and our own outcome. So if we want something different, then we need to do something different, right? To create that different outcome. And I think so much of it is really energetic. I think like parts of it are like energetic just based off like what we're attracting with our energy. I think, I think other parts of life are just around like acceptance for how things are. Like if things are different than how you want them to be, sometimes it's just part of the path and the progress of getting to where you want to be is just accepting where things are at exactly as they are right now. Just fully accepting it and not judging it as like this thing that's wrong or bad that's happening right now. It's like, no, that's happening right now. That's your life. This is your life. This is your moment. This is your life force energy. This is part of the creation that you are living. And honor that. Honor that. It's always precious. And I think what's coming up for me in relation to this card right now with all of this is how helpful it is to have a gratitude practice every day. Oh man, when I can't tell you how much a gratitude practice helped me in one of my deepest, darkest healing journeys. When I was able to, at the end of every night before I went to bed, I would run through my whole day with everything I was grateful for. And it was just like all the little things, like it would be like, I'm so grateful I slept last night. I'm so grateful I got to wake up in my beautiful home and cozy bed. I'm so grateful for running water and food to nourish me. And I'm so grateful for my clients and my income. And I'm so grateful for where it's just like, honestly, like I would do it every night before bed. And when I would run through the list, I would fall asleep by the time I got to like my morning workout because there was just so much. And it was helpful. It's helpful because when stressed within this energy here, it's just so easy to get overconsumed by everything that we think is wrong. But then we're giving so much of our life force to that. And by the way, it's a form of giving our power away. That we disconnect from all the beauty that's happening in our lives and how blessed we are to be here. And on this topic, I just want to say another thing that's really helped me in these kinds of moments in life. It's always good to keep things in a perspective, right? And like not in a way to diminish what we're going through in any given moment, but for me, I remind myself a lot, like if I find myself in this kind of energy, I remind myself a lot of like, you know what? Millions and millions of people around the world right now would give anything to have my problems. And so, yeah, my problems are intense, they're challenging, like it doesn't make me feel good. It's, the whole thing, but man, even so, millions and millions of people around the world would give anything to have my problems. So it's just, I just feel like it's really important to keep, whatever we need to do to keep our perspective from just getting overconsumed and just sunk by the energy, I guess disappointments of what doesn't work out in the way that we hope. That's really coming through right now. Next, we've got the energy of the Four of Swords, which is a great complement to this energy because the Four of Swords is saying it's time to rest. It's time to even heal. It's time, look, you've got a figure lying on their back, and it almost looks like the scene of a funeral. And you'll notice up here, you've got the Three Swords up here, and the Three of Swords in tarot is a very, very painful energy. It's an energy of heartbreak. And oftentimes it comes with energies of deception and manipulation and betrayal. So you've got this character, and it's interesting because, like I said, this looks almost like a funeral scene, and we've got this Scorpio full moon, And the energy of Scorpio is death. And we have this energy of completion, death, because it's a full moon. So again, like the theme of endings and death and transformation is really big right now for this full moon. So you've got this person who, you know, is healing from this energy of the Three of Swords. They're going through like a metaphorical death of their life. And you know, goodness, sometimes this energy here of the Three of Wands in reverse, sometimes what's so painful about that energy is that it's not only the death of the thing that didn't work out, it's the death of the story that we're never going to live. It's the death of the dreams that we're never going to fulfill. It's the death of the sense of identity of who we were going to be in that story that we don't get to experience. So if that's coming to the surface for you at this time, then you're right where you need to be with all of it. And the key right now is to just rest and go within, and you see like the angelic light coming through the window, you know, as a form of renewal. So the fourth sword is under the character. So you've got the Three of Swords up here representing pain. You got the fourth sword underneath the character at their back. And so this single sword down here in tarot is, you know, relates to the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords in tarot is very powerful. The Ace of Swords in tarot is, it rules the air element, which governs our thinking and perception. It governs our all modes of communication, written, vocal, nonverbal, body language, online. It ultimately, with the Ace of Swords is also about connection to our truth, and specifically how we use our communication to establish and maintain healthy boundaries that are in service to our truth. And oftentimes we learn more about this Ace of Swords within us. Oftentimes we go through a process of metaphorically sharpening that sword when we are going through the healing journey of this Three of Swords energy. We learn a lot more about our truth and how we are going to use our words to communicate and establish and maintain healthy boundaries in service to our truth. And, you know, it's a rough journey with all of that, but it's a human journey. It's one that all of us are going to be cycling through many times in our life. And it's very powerful. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's just the way it is. This painful Three of Swords energy, we, you know, experience at various times in our life. The power of our truth, like really owning the power of our truth coming out of that experience, often comes from fully acknowledging and taking responsibility for all of what we contributed to creating that outcome. And oftentimes it's a lot about how we gave our power away subconsciously. And so this Ace of Truth down here, that is going through a process of refinement, through a process of inward stillness and death, rebirth, transformation, renewal, and healing. You know, it tells us a lot more about our truth and how we are going to move forward in our life with more self-awareness, so that we don't create the same outcomes in the future. Next, we've got the Hermit. And I like this card for the full moon because look, we've got what looks like a full moon there. And so the Hermit, the message of the Hermit and is just basically echoing this sentiment here with the Four of Swords that talk about the journey of refinement of this Ace of Swords down here. The Hermit, the message of the Hermit is you're gonna find more about who you are and what you need and what your truth is when you go within and you connect with the guiding light inside of yourself to light the way forward. And it's a sign of, it's an energy of rest and healing. Yeah, and again, it's like we have like this symbolism of the moon, but then like all this darkness around it. Like what's, you know, go within to further examine Virgo, Virgo quality, examine, you know, take a fine-tooth comb through the darkness that's being illuminated within right now and triggered by the full moon. The energies of this card is speaking to me more of this is not a time to make big changes and choices. This isn't a time to take action. This is a time to pause, let go, pull in, get still, reflect, and do some soul searching. We also have at the bottom of the deck the Justice in reverse, and it's interesting here we have another image of the full moon, and we've got the Justice in reverse. So this is a card ruled by Libra, and what the energy of this is speaking to me right now, and it's saying look, it's saying, and it kind of like goes with all of these energies here, but it's making me think of this Three of Wands in reverse energy again. And to me, this is saying take a good look at where you might feel like things were unfair, or where you feel a little bit like, take a look at the parts of yourself that might be over identifying as a victim in this situation, whatever this Three of Wands in reverse situation is for you. Because if you're over identifying as a victim, it's just like, that's a natural step on the healing journey to, you know, feel like a victim in some way, but ultimately it's a step that we, you know, it's got a purpose. Like we kind of got to hang out on that step for a second, but don't get idle there, because it's really easy to slip into an energy of over identification with being a victim, and that's a leak in your life force. That's a leak in your vitality and your energy, and you're losing power by doing so. So another way that the Justice in reverse is speaking to me right now is regarding this Three of Wands situation that didn't work out. Maybe one of the helpful reflections while you're in this healing phase and doing as a hermit would do is just simply noticing, where did I overgive? Where did I how to say it? Sorry, I'm like feeling into an energy and I'm trying to like see like how to articulate it. You know, sometimes we abandon ourselves by overgiving, by devaluing ourselves. because we think we're doing it in service to our, what we perceive the needs of someone else is, or the needs of the relationship. And so there's ways that we devalue ourselves and abandon ourselves and even betray ourselves. And in my experience, every time I've done that, which has been a lot in my life, got like this hyper Libra stellium in my life. And so like that's been one of my personal patterns is, and the outcome every time is that the person I'm in relationship with ultimately ends up devaluing me and, betraying me or disrespecting me in some way. But it's because I'm not holding those energies for myself. I'm not valuing myself. I'm not protecting myself. I'm not respecting my energy. And so then it ends up showing up in the connection. And it's hard sometimes in relationships too, like, because, there are a lot of energetics to balance, right? It's like not every single thing is going to be like equal, like even Steven. Like there's just some ways where it's in relationship. It's like, well, this person offers a lot in this way, not so much in that way, but and then I offer these things and like together and it balances out. I mean, we do the best we can, but ultimately sometimes we, even within those kinds of experiences, don't realize how we are betraying ourselves and devaluing ourselves. And it's sometimes a really painful reflection and journey to have to be confronted with. But ultimately, it's just all about healing and growing these parts of ourselves, because we're not meant to be devaluing ourselves and abandoning ourselves and betraying ourselves, so these are leaks in energy and power. And Scorpio, the energy of Scorpio is all about power, and it's the part of ourself. It's not going to let us get away with being with having leaks in our power in order to serve something outside of ourselves, in order to serve something that is ultimately not in alignment with our truth. All right, guys, so this was a longer reading than I expected to do, but I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, please like, comment, and share this video. It would be so helpful, and subscribe to my channel. It would be so helpful if you supported my work in this way. All of my information is in the description box below. I do readings for singles and couples and for events as well. I can do online, video, on the phone, and of course in person. I do a number of things. In general, I work with women and couples for transformational work and intimacy, and you can learn more about all of that through my description as well, under this video. All right, well, with all of that said, I wish you a blessed and transformative Scorpio full moon, and you have everything in you need to be successful with these energies. And if you are in doubt in any moment, just remember, do as the hermit would do. All right, guys, see you next time. Thank you. Take care.